Perspective fakery is one of the oldest tricks in the book. With careful arrangement of objects and camera angle, we can play with scale so that we can combine small and large objects into a believable whole. Perspective fakery is one of the oldest visual tricks in the book, and also one of the most fun. With careful arrangement of objects in a scene, we can play with scale by combining small and large elements into a believable whole. This project is a combination of shooting skills and a little Photoshop magic. We'll begin by setting up our model car for a forced perspective effect, then go on to combine our set of photos in Photoshop to create our finished image. We'll need a few simple items here: our camera, a couple of tripods, a platform to hold our model in place, and the model itself, a classic 1961 Jaguar E-Type coupe. We also need to find a suitable backdrop. We've gone for a dingy underpass here. The atmospheric light coming from either end of the tunnel really enhances the mood. The height of objects plays an important role in how our eyes perceive them in a 2D image. So to create our illusion, we need to raise the car up off the ground, hence the small platform. The surface of the platform can be a giveaway, so we've covered it in roofing felt to match the texture of the tarmac in the road behind. As for camera gear, we've got a 5D Mark III with a 20mm lens. We need to bring the camera in close, as this will exaggerate the scale of the cars, especially with a wide-angle lens. We also need to spend a little time tweaking the angles and the height of the tripod or the platform until the foreground and the background come into natural alignment. So it's worth tweaking and fine-tuning things until the angles look right. As for camera settings, it's important to keep exposure consistent, so I'm in manual mode with aperture at f11, shutter speed 1 second and ISO 400. Now we're almost ready to take our shot, but there's a problem. Even with a narrow aperture, it's impossible to get our car sharp from front to back because it's so close to the camera. But we need that sharpness to sell the effect. The solution is to take a series of shots while making slight manual adjustments to the focus. Once shot, we can combine the sharp parts from our set of images in Photoshop, as you'll see in a moment. We also wanted to create more of a story to our shot here to give it sort of a 60s film noir look. I positioned Gareth here beyond the car, first in the distance for a silhouetted figure, then again to the right of the car. Finally, we need to remove the platform and the car and take a shot of the empty scene so that we can blend in the edges of the platform with the original scene later. With everything we need, we can head into Photoshop to piece it all together. So here we are in Adobe Bridge, and you can see this is my selection of images of the car, and you can see the focus point shifting from the foreground to the background. Now in my last few frames I've captured the empty scene and also a couple of different figures in different positions here. So I'll show you how to piece them all together now in Photoshop. I'm going to begin by selecting all of my focus stack images. So I'll start off with this one, scroll down to the bottom one down here, and then if I hold Shift and click on the last of the focus stack images, I can select all of them. Then I'm going to go to Tools here in Adobe Bridge. I'll go to Photoshop and load files into Photoshop Layers. And after a few seconds our image will open in Photoshop, and if I bring up the Layers panel here by going to Window Layers, you can see how each image occupies a separate layer here in the layer stack. Now again I need to select them all, so again I can shift click between the top and the bottom layer to select them, and then I'm going to go to Edit and we'll use the Auto Align Layers command down here. We can set it to Auto and hit OK. And now our images are more neatly aligned, and this just helps to get rid of that slight shift in position you see when you adjust the focus point between different frames. Now we can use another feature. While all of our layers here are still highlighted, we can go to Edit and auto blend layers. Now in the box here we can choose stack images, and we can also check seamless tones and colors and then hit OK. And you can see now in our layers panel over here how all of the sharp parts have been blended together using these automatic layer masks, and only the white areas are going to be visible on each layer, and this gives us our sharp image from front to back. Now we can move on and blend in another image of the scene. If we go back into Bridge here, you can see I've got my image here of the empty scene. I'll use the move tool and drag it in. I can hold shift as I drag, and when I release it'll be dropped in the same position. That just helps me to align it with everything else. Then I'm going to add a layer mask to this layer, grab the brush tool, and I'm going to paint with black over the area of the car to reveal it. So I just need to paint fairly roughly over this area here to reveal the car. And you can see because we're now including this area of foreground here, particularly this barrier here in the front, it gives the illusion that the car is actually sitting on the road rather than on our makeshift platform. And of course I'm being quite quick about this, but you can be a bit more precise with your painting if necessary. And once our layer mask here is complete, we can think about adding in our different figures as well. So I'll just finish off around this area here, tidy this up a little bit, and then I'm going to go back into Bridge and bring in this figure here in the distance. So again, I'll use the move tool and drag it into my main image. And again, I'll use a layer mask. So I'm going to hold Alt and click the add layer mask icon this time to give me a full black mask that completely hides everything on that layer. Then I'll grab the brush tool, and this time I'll set my foreground color to white, which allows me to reveal parts of that hidden layer. So I can just very quickly paint over the figure here in the distance to reveal him like this. And of course we can do the same with the second figure. So again, I'll go back into Bridge, open up this image here, use the move tool and drag it in. And then I'll add a layer mask. Again, I'll alt click the add mask icon, grab the brush and paint to reveal the second figure over here like this. And once that's done, all we might need to do is finish off by tidying up any little rough areas around the edges of our composite image here. So we can do that by adding a new layer at the top of the stack using the create new layer icon here. I can grab the clone tool, I can set it to sample all layers here in the tool options, and I can hold Alt to sample a source. So I'm going to hold Alt, just sample this area here and just paint to tidy up this slightly rough edge here. I can perhaps lower the opacity of the tool, which allows me to blend in these tones around this area here. So we just need to clone out any little rough patches around our composite, and that's our finished image. I can finish off just by cropping out those rough edges there. So I'll grab the crop tool, I can reset all of the settings up here, and then just drag in to crop out the edges like that. And that's my finished focus stacked forced perspective composite image.